Hello fellow YouTubers, it's me Tom Versal here and welcome to my new channel. This channel is where I will be doing album reviews and more music based videos, and on my main channel I can keep doing the gaming videos that I do, so it's not all cluttered up. And today we're kickstarting this channel with an album review, and it's an album review of the debut album of my favourite band of all time, Madness. Now, their debut is One Step Beyond. This came out in 1979, and it was released alongside the debut by another two-tone ska band called The Specials, who you probably know about. If you know about Madness, you most definitely know about Specials. This really did kickstart the two-tone movement at the time, and just started a whole uprising in new music. Now, the personnel on this album, it has Mike Barzan on keyboards, who we will from now on know as Barzo, Chris Foreman on guitar, who we will now know as Chrissy Boy, Graham McPherson on vocals, who we will now know as Suggs, Mark Bedford on bass, who we will now know as Bedders, Lee Thompson on saxophones, who we will now know as Kicks, and Daniel Woodgate on drums, who we will now know as Woody. Now we're going to talk about the cover art, this iconic masterpiece of a cover art. It consists of the band members all doing something they called the Nutty Train. Back then, there was no music like theirs, and I still don't really think there is. So many fans called them the Nutty Boys and called their music the Nutty Sound, which they were aware of, and they incorporated into the song Nutty Theme. And this is something they called the Nutty Train, which is where they all stand sort of doing that sort of thing. They used to do it all the time if you watch old videos of them and Take It or Leave It, which is their film. It's black and white, and I think it is black and white stylistically just because it looks cool, but it's also done on purpose, I believe, because two-tone was a movement that was going against racism, and the Specials were the band that owned two-tone records, which Madness were signed to, even though this is on Stiff, this album. So Specials' thing was just black and white checks and black and white cover art and artwork and stuff, because it was against racism, and they didn't believe that you should hate black people just for being black. So it shows how the colours coincide very well, which I believe is true. It shouldn't be racist just because people are black, and the colours do go very well together, especially on the black and white checks that two-tone records always had. Madness were the only all-male, all-white two-tone bands. There were other two-tone bands that were all male, but like the Specials were all male, but they had black people in there. Well, they were all male until Rhoda Dakar from the Body Snatchers became a part. But Madness were all white, and they were all male. So lots of skinheads would show up to their concerts and be racist and fascist sort of bad stuff, and Madness had to deal with that back then. The back of the album cover has a misprint, well, at least on the early versions, on the first release, I believe, or the early releases, it has a misprint. I don't know if you can see because of the phone glaring, but the song Bed and Breakfast Man is just noted as Bed and Breakfast on this, which they later fixed up, but it's something to note. Also, the track Madness on this version is a hidden track, in between Mummy's Boy and Chipmunk's Argo, I believe. And it also has some dancing pictures from a guy called Carl Smith, or Carl Smith, I don't know how you say it. It's an Irish name. And we're just going to call him Chas Smash from now on, because that was his nickname. He is labelled on the back round here. He wasn't part of the band, but he did provide some backing and lead vocals for this album and the dance work on stage. But he later joined the band when they released their first EP, and only EP I believe, Work, Rest and Play. So yeah, really iconic and brilliant cover art. Madness One Step Beyond has so many singles, like most of the album I would say is, half of it is singles, in some way or another, because One Step Beyond was a single, My Girl was a single, Night Boat to Cairo was released on video, and I believe later on it was released as a single. The Prince is a single. There's a really rare single of Tarzan's Nuts, which I actually happen to own. It's just like they took the Work, Rest and Play artwork and changed the colours of it. Bed and Breakfast Man isn't a single, but it was released on video, which got incredibly popular, so it's a really popular Madness song. And the song Madness, which is hidden on here, I think was a single later on, or at least a B-side. But the album tracks on here are what makes the album for me. I mean, I can't argue if you like One Step Beyond, My Girl, Night Boat to Cairo, because Night Boat to Cairo especially, it's just an incredible song, like, absolute work of art. But One Step Beyond is too, but it is a cover, so there's not much they could change other than just adding a sort of a not punk, but making it more punk by making it upbeat, and you can really hear the skanky guitar playing. But Night Boat to Cairo is just a fast song with an amazing saxophone solo, shows off the nutty sound really well, and that's a great single. But the album tracks like Believe Me, Mummy's Boy, In the Middle of the Night are all quirky little new ska tunes that are really nice to listen to, just little ska pop songs that are really beautiful to listen to, because Suggs sings quite well on them, to be honest. Some of the songs aren't sung by Suggs though. One Step Beyond is sang by Chas Smash, who we mentioned earlier. This is because he introduced them live on stage once and sang that song, and that's how they got interested in him, I believe. Now, Land of Hope and Glory has some vocals from Kix, Lee Thompson, and he also sings Razorblade Alley, which I believe is the darkest song on the album. Don't know what it's about, but Lee Thompson writes dark lyrics, and the song is a lot more dark sounding compared to the other songs, even with his singing, which can be weird at times. Chas Smash also sings on the song Tarzan's Nuts, I believe. It's Suggs and Chas going back and forth. And he also provides lead vocals on Chipmunks Are Go, which to me is a really boring track. It's just like 15 seconds military chant, taking the mick out of American military chants. Just a second. Sorry if you hear random sounds during this video. It'll be like Messenger and stuff. I didn't realise that my phone had sounds on. Anyway, as I was saying, Chipmunks Are Go to me is just a really boring track. 15 seconds of nothing really. It does show off the nutty characteristics of the band, and I really like it in that regard. But Madness would have been a wonderful outro song. I think Madness should have been track 7, or track 8 technically. And track 7 should have been Mistakes, which was a sort of B-side that Madness did. I believe one of Madness's first ever songs. It sounds a lot darker, but I think having a dark song like Mistakes would show off how the band might be nutty, but they can do mature music, which they would later do some really mature music with Rise and Fall, and their more recent albums, of course. Chipmunks Are Go shouldn't have been on there, in my opinion. Anyway, so that's all. One Step Beyond had just an incredible legacy. It was the debut of Madness, yet it got to number 2 in the charts for, I believe, over 70 weeks. It was only behind the Specials' debut album, so it really showed how Two Tone was just an amazing movement back then, and it really did start something new and fresh, which people loved. The singles off this album, like One Step Beyond, My Girl, Night Boat to Cairo, The Prince, Bed and Breakfast Man, they are all staples of Madness Live gigs back then and nowadays. They're just incredibly popular songs, and Madness will always play them live, no matter what. So, anyway, that's my opinion on One Step Beyond. Brilliant start. I do love this album. It's not my favourite Madness album, but it is just amazing. It's wonderful. Not the album wonderful. And it does show off the nutty ska sound that Madness did back then. So I'm not going to do an out of 10 actually, because if I do albums out of 10 then I'll probably contradict myself later. But it's one of my favourites. It's not my favourite, but it's up there. I believe I put it as my third or fourth favourite when I did the rankings. I do recommend it wholeheartedly. It was the second Madness album I ever heard, and it's just perfect. The only bad track is Chipmunks I Go, but 15 seconds of bad stuff really doesn't make the album weak at all. So thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and join me next time when I'll be reviewing Madness's second album, Absolutely. Stay epic.